All right, so hello everyone. This is the last lecture on the control part of this module, which is control and instrumentation. So I have covered all the topic, that is, I will be covering all the topic in today's class, the remaining topics. So the last topic that we have to discuss today is frequency response technique. Now, frequency response technique is a graphical method. So we draw some graph, some diagrams in this method to analyze our system. Um, Not too sure, but I think you might have heard about Bode plot, Nyquist plot, um, and Nichols plot. So all these different types of plots or diagrams we are going to study today. So let's first start with the importance of what is basically frequency response technique, what do we do in them, and why do we use these techniques. Okay, so frequency response techniques, they are very useful in designing a control system. Uh, they are useful in visualizing the problem, and they give us information on the stability and the performance of the system, right? So as I mentioned that it is a graphical technique. So even if we only have the data of the system, we can plot that data in a certain way, or in using the technique, we can plot them, and we can carry out frequency response uh, analysis or frequency response technique. Now, as it is a graphical method, so you do not need the complicated transfer function of the system, right? Um, Also, we can apply the same technique uh, for a first order system or a second order system or a third order system. That is, these techniques, they are independent of system order, right? They do not depend on the order of the system, right? So they are quite useful method, and they are used very often. Okay, so that's why they are quite important as well. Now, uh, in frequency response technique, uh, instead of applying uh, step input or your ramp input or your parabolic input, we apply a sinusoidal input with different frequency or with variable frequency. Okay, so if we consider this system to be linear system, okay, so if we are applying a sinusoidal input or a sine wave, something like this, right? And if we are considering that my system is linear, in that case, the output, it will also be sinusoidal. Okay. Although, since you are passing the input through the system, the output will be different from the input. Okay. So, your output signal, it may have a different amplitude and different phase, but the frequency of the output signal, it will be the same as your input. Okay. If your system is linear, your output will be different in terms of amplitude and phase, but the frequency will be the same as your input signal. Okay. Now, the frequency response of your system is denoted by capital M omega. So this is the magnitude response of the system. And phi omega, it is your phase response of the system. Okay. And if you have Mi and phi I, so these are for the input signal, frequency response of the input. And similarly, Mo omega and phi O omega, so these are the uh, responses for the output, a frequency response of the output. Okay, so either ways, we are only concerned with the frequency response of the system. Okay. Now, the magnitude, or we also call it gain, of the system, M omega, it is the ratio of the output gain, Mo, divided by the input gain, Mi omega. Okay. And the phase difference, phi omega, of the system, it is equal to the phase of the output minus the phase of the input signal. Now, generally, we are given with the transfer function of the system. So, transfer function, usually they are in Laplace domain, so in S domain. So, we can convert them into frequency domain by replacing S with j omega. Right? So, if you are given with any transfer function, and in that equation for the transfer function, if you replace S with j omega, you can convert it into frequency domain. So you'll get an equation in j omega instead of S. Okay. So this allows us to find out how a system responds to a unit sinusoidal input. Right? Unit sinusoidal input is the sine wave with unit amplitude. Okay. So you have a sine wave, but its amplitude is unity, 1. Okay. Unit input across a range of frequencies. Okay. So this method, if you follow, you can find the response of your system at a range of frequency, because you have omega here. Omega is 2 pi f frequency. So if you keep on changing the frequency, you can find the response of your system at different frequency for a unit sine wave. Okay, because we do not have any magnitude here, so we consider it unity, magnitude of the input as unity. Now let's take an example here. So we have concluded some points here, so let's try and apply those points or those little information that we have discussed in this example. Okay. So in this example, let me read the example. So for the first order system, and you are given with the transfer function, you have to determine the magnitude and the phase, magnitude and the phase of the output. Okay. When the input signal of frequency 0.1 radians per second is applied. So in this example, we are given with the transfer function of the first order, and we have to determine the magnitude and the phase of the output signal. Okay, where your input signal, it has a frequency of 0.1 radians per second. Now, one of the information that we have just discussed is that if my system, if this first order system is linear, in that case, the input signal and the output signal will have the same frequency. Okay, even though their magnitude and phase may be different, but they will have the same frequency. Okay, then also we discuss that we can convert this transfer function in S domain to j omega, right? We can replace S by j omega. So let's do that. So let's look at the solution. So the first step would be to replace S with j omega in the given transfer function. So I have replaced this S by j omega. So I get 3 divided by j omega plus 1.25. And I have done a little bit of rearrangement. I have written the denominator as real plus imaginary instead of imaginary plus real number, like this. Okay, it's the same thing. Now the second step would be to apply the value of omega. So since your input and the output, they have the same frequency, so I have applied this frequency to my system. So instead of omega, I will replace it with 0.1. Okay. So in the above equation, I have replaced omega with 0.1. Now to solve this type of a question or this type of a fraction, you have to multiply the numerator and the denominator by the complex conjugate of this number, of this complex number. What is a complex conjugate? So here in the denominator you have 1.25 plus j 0.1. Okay, its complex conjugate will be 1.25 minus. If you have plus here, it will be minus j 0.1. Right? So we have multiplied the same complex conjugate in the numerator and the denominator. Right? So if you remember the formula, a plus b multiplied by a minus b, it gives us a square minus b square. That's the formula. And also j square, right? So j represents my imaginary part. So j square is minus 1. Okay. So if we do the calculation, we will end up getting, in the denominator we'll get 1.25 square, and since you have a j here, right, so even if it is minus, j square will become minus 1, so ultimately you will get plus. Okay, you can try it out, but you will get plus. And then 0.1 square. Okay, and we have multiplied the numerator simply like multiplying with a number with a bracket. Okay, so we get this entire ratio. So if you solve it, the in the denominator you will end up getting 1.5725. Okay, now as a next step, what I have done is I have separated out the real part and the imaginary part. So this equation you can write it as 3.75 divided by 1.5725, whatever, right? And minus j 0.3 divided by 1.5725. Like this, we can separate out the real part and the imaginary part. If you solve them, you'll end up getting a complex number with a real part and the imaginary part, like this. Okay, so this is the magnitude, not the magnitude, but basically we have found the transfer function at 0.1 radians per second. But in the question we are asked to calculate the magnitude and the phase. Okay, so let's see from this number how we can get the magnitude and the phase of the output. Now, using that complex number, what we do is we develop the phasor diagram. Okay, so along the x-axis, it is your real axis, and the y-axis is your imaginary axis. So x-axis is my real axis, and the y-axis is my imaginary axis. Okay, so accordingly, I think you are aware how to draw a phasor diagram. So depending on the value and the scale that we are using, the length along the x-axis is decided, and it corresponds to 2.3847, the real part of the number which we have got. And along the y-axis, similarly, according to the scale which you are using, and the value of which you have, you can decide the length of this along the y-axis, which is 0.1907. So that's my imaginary number, right? So I plot the real number along the x-axis and the imaginary number along the y-axis. Okay, now if we join the two ends of this phasor diagram to complete this right angle triangle, so the length of this hypotenuse or this diagonal, it is your magnitude, and the angle which it makes from the x-axis, that is the phase. Okay, so if we apply Pythagoras theorem and some of the trigonometrical identities, so let's apply Pythagoras theorem. Okay, so if you apply Pythagoras theorem, you know that hypotenuse square is equal to base square plus perpendicular square. So hypotenuse is this side, the base is this, and the perpendicular is this one. So using that, you can calculate the length of the hypotenuse or the value of m. Okay, so I've done the calculation, that's why I'm not solving it right now. It's in the next slide. And similarly, if you remember tan of phi, tan of any angle is perpendicular upon base. So perpendicular will be this side and the base is this one, right? So again, if you have to calculate phi, you can take tan inverse of perpendicular divided by base, like that, right? So using Pythagoras theorem and trigonometric identity, you can calculate the magnitude and the phase at a particular frequency, right? So here is the calculation. So again, using Pythagoras theorem, I have calculated the magnitude at this frequency. You take square root of the real part plus the imaginary part square. We get 2.392 as the answer. Now this value, it is unitless. It doesn't have any unit. So we have to convert it into decibel, because magnitude is generally expressed in decibels. So for that, simply we take log of this number and multiply it with 20. Right? So 20 log base 10, 2.392. So this comes out to be 7.58 decibels. Okay. Now similarly, we have calculated the phase using the trigonometric identity that we just discussed. So it is, we take tan inverse of the imaginary part divided by the real part. Now, this negative sign, if we go back to the phasor diagram, let's have a look. So in the phasor diagram, the y-axis or the imaginary axis, it is along the negative y direction, right? It's downward. So that is why we consider it negative, right? So we have negative angle here. Okay, so minus of, or whatever this calculation will come, you have to consider it to be a negative angle. Okay, so we calculated the tan inverse of this ratio. We get it as 0.079 or 0.08 approximately radians, and it's a negative angle. Now, angle or phase, it is generally expressed in degrees. So again, we have to convert this value into degrees. Okay, so for that, 2 pi radians is equal to 360 degree, right? So if you apply unitary method to convert these many radians into degree, basically what you will realize is that you have to multiply whatever radians you are getting with 360 divided by 2 pi. Okay, so that is what we have done. So we have simply multiplied it, whatever radians we were getting, uh, multiplied by 360 divided by 2 pi. So we end up getting minus 4.57 degree. Okay, so this is the phase angle. Now, so we have calculated the magnitude and the phase angle at a single frequency. Now, if we have to plot this magnitude value and the phase value at a range of frequency, it is quite not possible to do it manually. Uh, I mean, it's quite difficult to do it, because at each and every frequency you will have to do the calculation. You'll get two values, you plot them on the graph, right? So it's a bit complicated manually, but nowadays we use MATLAB to plot this this range of frequency, the magnitude and the phase value at a range of frequency. And if you plot them, that is your Bode plot, that is called as your Bode plot. So Bode plot, it simply plots the magnitude and the phase difference at a range of frequency, right? So in the Bode plot, you will get two graphs, right? So one below the other. Something like you will get, when you plot the Bode, you will get two graphs, one here, and just below that you will get the other graph. So the top graph is for the magnitude and the bottom graph is for the phase. Okay. The magnitude or the gain, it is along the y-axis or the vertical axis, and it is plotted in decibels. Okay, so whatever value you will get, it is in decibel. And along the horizontal axis, you plot the angular frequency. Okay, and it is in radians per second, right, per second. Similarly, in the phasor diagram, the phase angles, they are plotted against the angular frequency. So along the x-axis, you will again have radians per second, and along the y-axis you will have phase in degree. Okay, so like that you will get two graphs, one below the other. Now another thing to note in these Bode plot is um, it is plotted on a logarithmic scale. Logarithmic scale. That is, if you look at the division of the blocks, they are not uniform, right? I will show you a Bode plot. My drawing is not that good, so I will show it to you in the actual or a better figure of it. So let's have a look at that. Okay, so I was talking about this division or the blocks. So as you can see, the blocks, they are not uniform. That means you have a logarithmic scale. That's your logarithmic scale. Okay. And as I mentioned, along the x-axis you have frequencies in both the graph, and along the y-axis in the magnitude plot you have magnitude in decibels, and in this you have the phase in degree. Okay, so these are few of the key points that we have to know about Bode plot. Now let's try and plot the Bode plot. Let's learn how we can plot this type of diagram or this type of figure. Now, so generally for the Bode plot, we need the transfer function. From the transfer function, we find out the values of poles and zeros. Now, if you have a pole at a certain value, let's say we have a pole at s equals to minus a. So this pole will give a break frequency at a, right? So here if your value of pole is minus 2, so you will get a break frequency at 2 radians per second. Okay, and the magnitude in the magnitude plot, the slope because of this pole in the magnitude plot, the slope will be in the downward direction, and it will be at a rate of minus 20 dB per dk. Okay, so because of a pole at s equals to minus 1, you will have a break frequency at the same value, and you will have a slope in the downward direction at a rate of minus 20 dB per dk. Okay, so these are the key points that we should know in order to plot this Bode diagram, right? So similarly, if you have a 0, right? So again, let's say 0 is at s equals to minus 3, right? So you will get a break frequency at a, right? So if you are getting a 0 at minus 3, your break frequency will be at 3 radians per second, like that. Okay, and this time the slope will be in the upward direction. Okay, so it will be in the upward direction, and uh, it will be at a rate of plus 20 dB per dk, right? So pole, it causes the slope to increase in the upward direction and at a rate of minus in the downward direction. I'm getting should be downward. So poles, they cause the slope to decrease in the downward direction, or it goes in the downward direction. Wn, my goodness, sorry for that. In the downward direction, and its rate will be minus 20 dp per dk. And 0, right? It will cause my slope to increase in the upward direction, upward, and the rate at which it will increase is plus 20 dp per dk. So this is about the magnitude plot, right? So remember, in Bode plot you have two plots. The first is your magnitude. So this is about the magnitude plot. Okay. Now let's talk about the phase plot. So again, let's see the effect of poles and zeros. So if you have a pole at s equals to minus a, so this will cause an asymptotic phase shift, a phase shift of minus 45 degree per dk, right? Along with that, its effect will start from 0.1a to 10a, right? So let's say if you have a pole at minus 2, okay, so it will cause a asymptotic phase shift of minus 45 degree. And from where it will start? It will not start from 2, right? So in the case of magnitude plot, the slope change, it will start from the break frequency. So let's say if you have a pole at minus 2, so as soon as you reach the break frequency 2 radians per second, right? So your slope was, it was going straight. Okay, so as soon as you reach 2 radians, your slope will decrease, or it will fall, move in the downward direction at a rate of 20 dB per dk, right? That was about magnitude plot. But for phase plot, your if you have a pole at minus 2, it will change, it will start changing from 0.1a. So 0.1 multiplied by the value of a is 2. That is, it will start changing from 0.2 radians per second, and it will continue to change until 10a, right? So 10 multiplied by 2 is 20 radians per second. Okay, so in the case of phase plot, the slope will be minus 120 minus 45 degree per dk, but it will start changing from 0.2. So as soon as you reach 0.2 radians, your slope will start to change at minus 45 degree per dk, and it will continue to change until you have reached the final, that is your 20 radians per second. 20 radians per second. So slope will start changing from 0.1 to 20 radians, like that. Similarly, you can calculate if you have a pole at minus 3 or at 1, right? So you can, it will change accordingly. So this is an additional thing in the phasor diagram. Okay. Similarly, if you have a 0 at s equals to minus 1, again that will cause a phase shift of plus 45. Okay, so your slope will increase plus 45 degree, and it will start increasing from 0.1a up to 10a. Okay, So this is about phase plot. Okay, so these points, they are quite important for plotting a Bode plot. Okay, and obviously in a system you will have multiple values of poles and zeros. So the complete Bode plot, it will be a cumulative effect, or a combined effect of all the poles and zeros. Okay, so let's take one example and let's try to draw the Bode plot of it. Okay, so here we have a transfer function, and we have to draw the Bode plot or Bode diagram. Okay, so obviously we all know the first step is to find the value of poles and zeros. Okay, so for finding the value of zeros, we will equate the top line equal to 0. So let's first find that. S plus 3, if you equate it equal to 0, you will get S as minus 3. So you'll have a 0 at S equals to minus 3. And similarly, if we equate the bottom line, we'll get 3 poles, right? So one of the pole will be at S equals to 0. The next pole will be at S equals to minus 1, and the third pole will be at S equals to minus 2. Yeah. So altogether we'll have 3 poles and 1 0. Right. Uh, Now, if you notice, we have a pole at S equals to 0. So in the magnitude plot, or basically, or in general, in a logarithmic scale, we cannot plot 0 value, right? Because there is no 0 values in a logarithmic scale, right? Um, so we'll see how we can uh, include the effect of a pole at S equals to 0. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so similarly, I've mentioned it here. We get a 0 at S equals to minus 3, and we get the 3 poles. One of them is at S equals to 0. Okay, so we'll get 3 break frequency. So the first break frequency will be at 1, right? The second break frequency will be at 2 radians per second, and the third break frequency, because of this 0, will be at 3 radians per second. Okay, and as I mentioned, we cannot show a frequency of 0, right, on a logarithmic scale. So with a pole at 0, the Bode plot starts with a line sloping downward at minus 20 dB per decay. So since we cannot have a 0 value, we will assume, like, from wherever we are starting, there has been a pole already, right? So if you are starting from, let's say 1, before that you had a 0 somewhere, because logarithmic scale, it doesn't have a 0 value. So before that you might have a 0. So as a effect of that, your initial slope will be, or if you're starting, let's say, from 1, and you assume that somewhere down the line you have a 0, and because of that you have a slope of minus 20 dB per decay, right? So poles, they cause a slope of minus 20 dB per decay in the magnitude plot, and in the phasor plot it is minus 45 degree per decay. Another thing to remember for phase plot it starts from 0.1a to 10a. Okay, and if you have a 0, it will be the other way around. So the slope in magnitude plot will be plus 20 dB per decade, and in the phasor plot it will be plus 45 degree per decade, right? And for phasor plot we have a additional criteria or condition to fulfill, right? We have noted it here just to remember. So since 0 is a pole, so it will cause a minus 20 dB per decade, and we cannot plot 0 on a logarithmic scale. So from wherever we are starting, whichever frequency we are starting, the initial slope of the line will be minus 20 dB per decade. Okay. Now, right. So the next thing, we have to choose the range, right? From where we will start and up to where or up to which frequency we have to consider the Bode plot. So generally, from the lowest break frequency, we generally consider a decade below the lowest break frequency. So lowest break frequency is 1 radians per second, right? A decade is generally a period of 10 years. Okay, so uh, so below 1, if you go 10 times below 1, that means it is 0.1. Okay, so decade is generally a period. So if you like find the meaning of decade, it is generally a period of 10 years, right? So a decade below the lowest frequency, and the lowest frequency is 1 radians per second. So if you go 10 times below that, you will get 0.1 radians. So 0.1 radian should be my starting frequency. Okay, and a decade above the highest break frequency. So highest break frequency is 3, at least a decade above, right? So you can take a higher value. Uh, so your highest frequency is 3 radians per second, right? So we have chosen the highest value or the maximum range that we are going to consider as 100. Okay, so our Bode plot will be from 0.1 to 100 radians per second. So it will start from 0.1 in both magnitude and the phase plot, and it will go up to 100 radians per second. Okay. Right. So we have decided the range, we have found the poles 0 values, we know where we'll have the break frequencies. Okay. Now we we are sorted on the x-axis. We know the range, but what about the y-axis? From which point should we start? Should we start from here or below that? We don't know, right? So we have to find the starting point along the y-axis on the magnitude and the phase plot. Okay. So as a next step, what we do is we find the magnitude and the phase at the lowest frequency. So the lowest frequency that we are considering is 0.1 radians per second, because our graph, it will start from 0.1 and it will go up to 100 radians per second. So we try to find the magnitude and the phase at the lowest frequency. So in the first example, whatever steps we have followed to find the magnitude and the phase, we are going to do the same in here, right? So we already know the transfer function. We are given with the transfer function. So as a first step, we'll replace s with j omega, right? So if you replace it, you'll get something like this. And obviously you have to keep a note that uh, j square is -1, right? So if you solve it accordingly, you will end up getting this ratio or this equation here, right? Now my equation is in terms of omega, and the lowest frequency that I am considering is 0.1. So I will replace omega with 0.1 here. Okay, so you replace all the omegas, and if you do a little bit of solving here, you'll end up getting this minus 0.0701 minus j times 0.6, this whole divided by 0.04. Okay, again if we separate out the real part and the imaginary part, we'll get approximately minus 1.73 minus j times 14.81. Okay, so again you can either draw the phasor diagram, or from the uh, Pythagoras theorem, you can, to find the magnitude, you will take square root of real part square plus the imaginary part square, right? And for the phase, you will take tan inverse of the imaginary part divided by the real part. You can do it this way, or using your calculator you can also uh, convert from the complex number into polar form. Okay, into polar form. But basically from this you will get a number, right? Unitless number. And if you remember, we have to convert it into decibels, right? So from whatever value you are getting, you will convert it into decibels. And again, whatever value you are getting from here, from phase, you have to convert it into degree. Okay, so I have done the calculation here. So I got 24.02 dB as the starting point. So my graph in the magnitude plot, it will start from 24.02, and it will have an initial slope of minus 20 dB per dk, right? And in the phasor plot, my slope or my graph, it will start from minus 96.7 degree. Okay, like that. So I know the range of frequency and the starting points, right? Now I also know the break frequency, that is from where the slope of the lines will change. So let's draw those values. So in this table I have highlighted all the points. So since we have a pole at 0, the initial slope will be minus 20. So we are starting at 0.1. So from 0.1 radians per second itself, your slope will be at this minus 20 dB per dk. And since you have a pole at 1, your frequency, your slope will change at 1 radians, right? So your slope initially it was minus 20. At 1 radians per second, you have additional slope of minus 20. So altogether, your final slope after 1 radian, it will be minus 40. Similarly, your next pole is at 2, right? At minus 2, but we are mainly concerned with the frequency here. So the next break frequency will be at 2 radians per second. So after 2 radians, you will have additional slope of minus 20. So altogether you will have a slope of minus 60, right? So that means after 2 radians your slope will further reduce to minus 60 dB overall cumulative effect, right? And then you have a 0 at 3. So zeros increase the slope. So they will increase the slope by plus 20. Okay. So previously we had a slope of minus 60, and if you add 20, if you increase the slope by 20, finally you will have a slope of minus 40 dB per decay. So like that we change the slope of the line. Okay. So let's see the actual plot. Okay. So this is the magnitude plot. Let me write it. Magnitude plot. Okay, Bode plot, it has two graph. One is the magnitude and another one is the phasor plot. Okay, so let's see how these slopes they are changing. Okay, so we started from 0.1 radians and we are ending, or the maximum frequency that we are considering is 100 radians per second. Okay, as per our calculation, the starting point in the magnitude plot, it was around 24 dB, right? So we start from somewhere here, which is 24, assuming it is correct, right? And since we have a pole at 0, so the initial slope will be minus 20 dB per decay. Pole at 0, right? We cannot plot this 0, so the initial slope will be minus 20 dB per decay, right? The next pole is at, let me write down the values, it will be more clear. So we have poles at 0, 1, 2 and zeros at 3. Minus, these are all minus, and obviously they will have the corresponding break frequency which we are considering. Okay, so pole at 0 is sorted, the initial slope is minus 20. The next pole is at minus 1 or 1 radian, the corresponding break frequency. So at 1 radians per second, your slope will further reduce by minus 20 dB, right? That is altogether it will be minus 40 dB, right? So your slope has changed. The next pole is at 2 radians. Right? So the next pole is at 2 radians. So again, it will cause a break frequency at 2 radians per second, right? And your slope will further reduce by minus 20. So already you have minus 40 dB. If you further reduce it, it will become minus 60. So after 2, your slope is becoming minus 60 dB. But you have a 0 at 3 radians per second. So after 3, your slope will increase by plus 20 dB. So you had initially 60. If you add 20, you will get 40. Right? So after 3 radians per second, all the way up to the end of the Bode plot or end of the magnitude plot, your slope will be minus 40 dB per decay. Okay, that is how your Bode plot is plotted here. You may be asked to plot the Bode plot in your assessment, so just ensure that you know all these steps and maybe practice a few questions. Now, moving on to the phasor plot. So in the case of phasor plot, if you have a pole, it will cause a phase shift of minus 45 degree per decay, and the additional information that we have noted is it will the change in the phase shift, it will start from 0.1 times A and it will end at 10 times A. So A is 1 here, so it will start from 0.1 and it will go all the way up to 10 radians per second. So it will start at 0.1, it will go up to 10, right? So if you look at the first row, you had slope at minus 45 all the way up to 10 radians. Okay. Similarly, the next pole is at 2, right? So again, you have a pole, so you will have a phase shift of minus 45 degree. But since your value of A is 2 now, so you will start from 0.2 and its effect will end at 20 radians per second. Okay, so because of this pole at 2, your effect will start from minus 45, start from 0.2 and it will go all the way up to 20. So at or after 20 dB per second, the effect of second pole or the pole at 2, it will be 0. So like that, and your third value is at 0. You have a 0 at 3. Yeah, so the effect of this, it will start from 0.3 up to 30. Okay, so it is starting from 0.3 and it will go all the way up to 30. At 30, it will become 0. And your entire phasor diagram will be a cumulative sum of it. I know it may sound a little complicated here. Let's have a look at the plot itself and let's try to understand all this. So pole, obviously, it causes minus 45 degree per decay, and zeros, they cause a slope of plus 45 degree per decay. So this we know, and the values of pole, we have a pole at 0, minus 1, minus 2, and the zeros, they are at minus 3. Okay, and since we are plotting the phase, oh come on, sorry for that. Since we are plotting the phase plot, okay, so this is the phase plot. We have to consider additional information that the effect of or the slope will start changing from 0.1 A to 10 A, right? So we have to keep a note of that. So all the key points I have mentioned. Now let's try and understand the phase plot here. Okay, so first thing is the starting point. It was minus 96. So okay enough. Let's assume that this is like, because of the scale, we cannot see the exact value, but my phase plot is starting from minus 96. Okay, degree. Now, right, so 0 we cannot plot in the phasor plot, right? Now the next pole is at 1, right? So the effect will start from 0.1 to 10. Okay, so let's call this P1, will start from 0.1 and it will end or it will go up to 10, P1. Okay, next pole is at 2. So because of that, uh, the effect will start from 0.2 and it will go up all the way up to 20. So 0.2, let's use a different color. Let's use purple. 0.2 will be here. So this is the effect of starting point for the second pole. The effect will start from 0.2 and it will go all the way up to 20. Okay, P2. And we have a 0 at 3. Okay, so let's use a different color now. Which one? Let's use brown. So the next 0 is at 3, so it will also start, the effect will start from 0.3, it will end, or it will go all the way up to 30. So 0.3 will be here. So this is my 0 at 3. It will start from 0.3, go all the way up to 30. Right? So this is my 0 at 3. Okay, so I have first of all, I have identified the range from where to where the effect will happen for each pole and 0. Okay, now since we are starting from 0.1 radians, now immediately the effect of the first pole will be in place, right? So immediately, because of pole at 1 will be in place. So because of pole, the slope will decrease by minus 45, right? So it is decreasing by minus 45 degree per decay. Now the second pole, it is at 2. So the effect of the second pole will be in place at 0.1. So it is a pole, so again it will reduce the slope by minus 45. Already you have minus 45, another slope of minus 45, that is altogether minus 90 degree per decay after 0.2 radians per second, right? And you have a 0 at 3. So 0 at 3, so the effect is starting from 0.3. Okay, so 0.3 is here and it is a 0, so it increases the slope by plus 45. My previous slope is minus 90, it is increasing the slope now because it is a 0, so altogether it will be minus 45, right? After that, or you do not have any effect to consider, so it will go all the way up to 10, right? Now the effect of first pole is ending at 10. So pole, it decreases the slope by minus 45. So if it is ending, if the effect is ending, so the slope will now increase. Now my previous slope is minus 45. So after 10, it is increasing by plus 45, or the effect of pole is ending. So altogether it will be 0. The slope along here will be 0. Now at 20 radians per second, the effect of second pole is ending, right? So it will further increase my slope, right? So it will increase to 45 degree per decay. Okay. Now at 30 radians per second, the the effect of 0 is ending, right? And 0, they cause a slope of plus 45, that is, they increase the slope. So here they have increased the slope. If after 30 radians, if the effect is going away, so in that case the slope will decrease. So you will subtract minus 45. So altogether, again after 30, your slope will be 0 degree per decay. So like that, the slope changes throughout because of the values of poles and zeros. Okay, so again you have to do a little bit of practice over here to understand or to apply all the things, right? Now I'm going to skip this slide. This is the same thing I've mentioned in words. You can read it. Right. So the next thing that we have to consider is how to find gain margin and phase margin from the Bode plot. Okay. Now this gain margin, it is represented by capital G M, right? Uh, and basically this gain margin and phase margin, it tells us about, or it gives us an estimate that how much we are far from the stable condition, right? What margin we have in order to achieve stability or in order to make our system stable, right? So gain margin GM, it is the gain required to raise the magnitude to 0 dB at a phase shift of minus 180. And phase margin, which is represented by phi m, it is the amount of phase shift which can be added to reduce the phase to minus 180 degree at 0 dB magnitude. Right? A little bit confusing, but it's very simple. Let's see. Okay. So let's assume that this is my magnitude plot and this is my phase plot. I'm getting some line at a certain slope with a certain slope. Okay. So from the we start from the magnitude plot and we look for 0 dB line. Okay. So 0 dB line is here, and wherever this 0 dB line cuts the magnitude plot, right, we go down all the way down to the phase plot. Okay, now this is hitting, or it is crossing, or it is cutting the phase plot at this point. So from this point we measure the difference from 180 degree line and the point where we arrived from the gain plot or the magnitude plot. So this difference is called as your phase margin, right? Then we start from the phase plot. So we look for minus 180 degree, right? So minus 180 degree is cutting the phase plot somewhere here. So we now go up to the gain plot and we calculate this difference from the point to 0 dB line. So this difference, it is your gain margin. Okay. Now let's take an example here very quickly. Okay, so in this we are given with a transfer function or a system, a unity gain feedback system, and its transfer function is given. So we have to find the, first of all we have to plot the magnitude and the phase plot for the Bode plot and estimate the gain and the phase margin. Okay, so let's quickly go through how to plot the values. So the first step would be to find uh, the poles and zeros, and the second step would be to find the starting point. Okay, so in this solution I have started from the second step. It's okay, right? So we are given with this transfer function, right? Now what we have to do is, you can follow the step. You can replace s with j omega and in this we have decided to start from 0, right? So either you can replace omega with 0, or you can shorten these two steps by simply replacing s with 0, right? So that's what I have done here. So if I replace s with 0, all these terms, they will become 0, right? So I will end up getting 200 divided by 2 multiplied by 4 multiplied by 5. If I solve that, I'll end up getting 5. Now again I have to convert it into decibels, right? So I have used this formula, and finally I get 13.98 dB. So this is going to be my starting point. Okay. Now the next step is to find the values of poles and zeros. So let me write down the transfer function for you. So it is 200 divided by s plus 2, s plus 4, s plus 5. 200 divided by s plus 2, s plus 4, s plus 5. So this is my transfer function. I find the values of poles and zeros. So there will be no zeros because in the numerator you do not have any s terms. So you don't have any zeros. For the values of pole, the first pole I'll get at -2, the second pole will be at -4, and the third pole will be at -5. Okay, so corresponding to the values of pole, you will have the break frequency. So the break frequencies will be at 2, 4 and 5 radians per second. Okay, and after 2 radians per second your slope should be -20 dB per decade. After the second pole, or after 4 radians per second, your slope will be -40 dB, right? If combined effect or the cumulative effect will be -40 dB, and after 5 radians your cumulative or the combined slope will be -60. So in every step you subtract -20 dB per decade. Obviously every pole they cause a slope of -20 dB per decade. So that's what we are doing. Okay. Now, so this is the entire Bode plot. Okay, you have the magnitude plot and you have the phase plot here. So your poles were at, let me have a look, 2, 4 and 5, right? No zeros, we only have poles at 2, 4 and 5, only poles. Okay, the starting point, it was 13.7, we start from 14 dB, it is okay, right? We start from here, approximately 14 dB. Now and my starting point is 0.1 radians and all the way up to wherever the graph takes us, right? We have limited space. Okay, but the values, it will be 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 5, and then all the way up to 1. 1 is here. Then you have 2, 4, 5, and then 10 is here, and then you have 20, 40, 50, like that. Okay, right. So we start from plus 14 dB. The first pole, it occurs at 2 radians. So 2 radians is here. So the slope changed by -20. The second pole, it or the second break frequency is at 4. So 4 is here. So your slope again changes by minus 20, that is altogether minus 40. And then the third pole is at 5, right? So after 5 radians per second, your slope further reduces by minus 60. So you go in this way. Okay, that's about magnitude plot. For the phase plot, because of this pole, you will have a slope of minus 45 degree per decay, but it will start from 0.2 and it will go all the way up to 20. So I have not plotted, or I have not completed the plot here. I have only considered up to 10. Okay, so uh, so from 0.2 the slope is changing by minus 45. The next pole is at 4, so the effect will start from 0.4. It will go all the way up to 40, right? So at 0.4 your slope further reduces by minus 45, that is altogether minus 90. Then the next pole is at 5, so the effect will start from 0.5 and it will go all the way up to 50 radians per second. So after 0.5 your slope further reduces by minus 45. Okay, so altogether you have minus 90 minus 45, that is altogether minus 135 degree per decay. So again I have considered only up to 10. So after 10 the effect, after 20 the effect of first pole at 2, it will go away, and after 40 the effect of second pole will go away. So gradually your slope will start increasing, right? Now to find the gain margin, we first look for 0 dB line. So 0 dB is here. Let's see where it cuts the uh, magnitude plot. So it is cutting the magnitude plot somewhere here. So from this point we go down onto the phase plot, right? And it is cutting the phase plots at this point. Now we look for minus 180. So minus 180 is here, and we measure this difference. So this difference, it comes out to be 10 degree, right? So this is my phase margin. Now we start from the phase plot from minus 180 degree, it is here, and we go up to the magnitude plot. So we go here and we measure the difference from 0 dB line, right? So 0 dB line is this, and the phase plot is cutting here. So we measure this difference, and this is called as your gain margin, which comes out to be 4 dB in my case. Okay. So as per my hand drawn Bode plot, the gain margin, it comes out to be 4 dB and the phase margin is 10 degree, right? But obviously because we have drawn it by hand, and I assume that it will not be very accurate, right? So, but more or less it gives me the idea. So what I have done is I have plotted the Bode plots uh, on MATLAB, and I have measured the gain margin and the phase margin. So in this figure, if you see the gain margin, it comes out to be minus 5.67. So 5.67 dB. Okay. So from 180 line, 180 degree line in the phase plot, we go to the magnitude plot and measure the difference from 0 dB line, right? It comes out to be 5.67 dB. Now for the phase margin, again we start from 0 dB line on the magnitude plot and go to the phase plot. Wherever it cuts the phase plot, we measure the difference from minus 180 degree line. Okay, so this difference, it is giving us, or this point is my 156 degree. So if I subtract 180 from here, I will get 24 degrees, okay, as my phase margin, which is a bit different from what I have got from my hand drawn Bode plot, right, which was expected, I would say. So overall, from the MATLAB plot, I got a gain margin of 5.7 dB and a phase margin of 24 degree. Now, generally, uh, a gain margin less than 10 dB and a phase margin less than 45 degree, uh, that system is considered to be stable, right? But it is not true for all the system, or even in this example where according to these values, I would say my system is stable, but if I implement it practically, my system may be unstable, right? Because you have so many practical constraints or so many influences on the system, because of which it will be unstable, right? So this value is an approximation, I would say. It does not hold true for all the system. So stability of the system, it depends on condition, individual system to system, and the condition, like how you are applying the input, what is the input, right? All that. Right. So that was all about Bode plot. Now moving on to the next type of frequency response technique, which is Nyquist diagram. Right. So in the case of Bode plot, if you have to measure the gain margin and the phase margin, you have to move down from one plot to the other and backwards, right? Uh, in the case of Nyquist plot, it's a bit simpler because both the magnitude and the phase, they are plotted on the same graph. You won't get two different graphs. Instead, in the Nyquist diagram, you will get both the magnitude and the phase value on the same plot, right? So for drawing the Nyquist plot, the first step is to find the open loop transfer function. Okay, open loop transfer function is Gj omega multiplied by Hj omega. Obviously, we are replacing S with j omega, right, as in the previous case, right? So H is your feedback gain and G is your forward gain or your system gain. Okay, you multiply them together and that will give you the open loop transfer function. Um, and another thing about Nyquist plot is that the gain of the transfer function is the radial coordinates and the phase is the corresponding angular coordinates. So basically we plot the Nyquist diagram in a polar form. Okay, in a polar form. And only one curve or one diagram or one plot is required. You don't need two different plots for magnitude and phase. Let's have a look at the Nyquist diagram here. So generally the complete Nyquist plot will be a closed figure, right? But since your Nyquist plot is symmetrical along the x-axis, so it will be a complete circle, right? So if we consider the entire Nyquist plot, it will be a complete circle. But in this, we have only considered half circle or semicircle because Nyquist diagrams, they are symmetrical, right? Mirror image will be there. Now, along the perimeter of the circle, we have different values of uh, frequency, angular frequency, omega, right? So you get all the values along the perimeter, right? Uh, and in the upper circle or in the upper half of the circle, you will have all the negative values, right? So along the bottom half of the circle, you are having all the positive frequencies. Above, you will have the negative frequencies. Okay. And to plot or to find the magnitude and the phase value, what we do is we simply connect a line from the origin to that frequency. So let's say we have to find the magnitude and phase at 0.3 radians per second. So we will connect a line from origin to the uh, to that frequency. So the length of this line, it will give me the magnitude, and the angle which it is making from the x-axis, that will be my phase. Okay. So similarly, we can find the magnitude and phase at different or at range of frequencies. Now, generally the Nyquist plot for a first order system is a unit circle. That is a circle with a diameter of 1. Okay. Now, the broken line is for the negative values of frequencies, omega. So as I mentioned, on the upper half of the circle, the broken line, you will have the negative values of frequencies along here. And at the bottom half, you will have all the positive values, right? Uh, Now, the solid line curve begins at a frequency omega equals to 0 on the right. So it will start, so this point, it will be a 0 radians per second, right? And then you go all the way onto the left, and over here you have infinite frequency. That is, omega is equal to infinite or very high frequency. Okay. Now, to find the values of gain margin and the phase margin, we follow a certain step. So again, this is your Nyquist diagram. The solid blue line is your Nyquist diagram. And again, I have considered only a part of the Nyquist diagram, right? The complete Nyquist diagram will be a closed figure. It will go all the way and back to 0, right? So just to show you, the complete Nyquist diagram will be, could be something like this, right? It will be a closed figure. I have only considered a part of it. Okay. Now, to find the gain margin, so gain margin is your 20 log base 10 A. So this is basically a formula for converting the value into decibels, right? So this value A we have to find out from the figure or from this Nyquist diagram. So for that, what we do is we have the Nyquist diagram. So we draw a unit circle from the center, from the origin. We construct a unit circle. Now wherever this unit circle is cutting the Nyquist diagram, right? So we draw a line from the origin to this point. where the unit circle is cutting the Nyquist diagram. And we measure the angle from x-axis, right? We measure the angle from x-axis, and this angle, it is your phase margin. Now for the gain margin, what we do is we start from the origin or from wherever the Nyquist diagram is starting, right? And we trace its path, and wherever this Nyquist diagram, it is cutting the x-axis or the real axis, right? So we measure the distance of this point from the origin, and this point or this length is your minus 1 divided by a, right? So this value or this point is minus 1 divided by a. So we have to calculate a and then convert it into decibel using this formula. So that will give me the gain margin. Okay. Now let's quickly take an example over here. So for this example, we are given with, so let's read it through. Sketch a Nyquist plot for the unit gain feedback system. Okay, so my system is a unity gain feedback system, and it has a transfer function which is given by this equation here. Okay, and I have to estimate the gain and the phase margin, right? So since it is a unity gain feedback system, so G of S is given, H of S will be 1 because it is a unity gain feedback system. Yeah. So the feedback gain H of S, it will be unity. Yeah. 1. So as a first step for plotting the Nyquist diagram, we have to calculate the open loop transfer function. Transfer function. So G of S multiplied by H of S, right? Because H of S is 1, so it will be essentially your G of S, whatever this transfer function is. Okay. This one, G of S. Okay. So in the solution, that is what I have done. I have first calculated the open loop transfer function. H of S is 1. So this is actually your G of S. And instead of S, I have replaced it with J omega. And we all know that J square is minus 1. So wherever you get J square, you can replace it by minus 1. Okay, so this is my open loop transfer function in frequency domain. Now to plot this Nyquist diagram, we have to again find out some starting points and some points along the real and the imaginary axis, or along the x and the y axis. Okay, so we have to find all those values. So first we have to find the starting point from where the Nyquist plot will start. So for that we consider omega at a low frequencies, or we find the value of this open loop transfer function at low frequencies, and the lowest frequency will be 0 radians per second, right? So we equate omega equal to 0 in the open loop transfer function, Gj omega, Hj omega, which we have just now calculated the equation. So if I look at that, so if I replace omega with zeros all there, right? So all the first three term in the denominator, they will become 0. I'll be left with 100 divided by 48. So 100 divided by 48 is here. And if you solve it, you will get 2.083. So this will be the starting point on the real axis of the Nyquist plot. Then we calculate omega at high frequencies. And what would be the highest frequency? It would be infinite, right? So if you replace omega with infinite, and if I again give you the reference of this, instead of 0, if I'm replacing them with infinite, obviously the bottom line will become infinite. So you'll get 100 divided by infinite, which is 0. Okay. So you get 100 divided by infinite, which is equal to 0. Right? So basically the Nyquist plot will start from 2.08 and it will go all the way and end at 0. Okay. Because the highest frequency, it will start from the lowest frequency, it will go all the way up to the highest frequency. So it is a closed figure, so it will end at 0. Okay. Now, we have to, so this would be something, it will be like this. Sorry. Right. So this will be something, how your Nyquist plot it will start from 2.8, it will go all the way at different frequencies and it will end at 0. Okay. Now if you look at the Nyquist diagram, it is cutting the real and the imaginary axis at some points. So we have to find these values, where it will cut the real axis and where it will cut the imaginary axis. We have to find these values, right? So to find this value, what we do is to find where the curve it crosses the imaginary axis, we equate the real part of Gj omega equal to 0. Okay, so if we go back to the open loop transfer function and try to find the real parts in the bottom line, you have this minus 12 omega square is real and 48 is real, right? So I equate these two parts equal to 0 to find where my Nyquist diagram will cut the imaginary axis, right? And find the value of omega. So omega, it comes out to be 2, right? And the frequency, we have found the frequency, we have to find the magnitude as well. So to find the magnitude, we replace the value of omega in the open loop transfer function and calculate the value. So if we get the magnitude to be minus j 1.25. Similarly, we calculate where the Nyquist plot will cut the real axis. So for that, we equate the imaginary part equal in the open loop transfer function equal to 0. So the imaginary part in the open loop transfer function is minus j omega cube plus j 44 omega. We equate it equal to 0. Again, from this we find the value of omega or the frequency and substitute this frequency in the open loop transfer function and calculate the magnitude. Right? So we get the magnitude as 0.208 and the frequency is 6.63 radians per second. Now I have plotted this graph, the Nyquist diagram using MATLAB. So if I compare the values where it is cutting the real axis, so it is cutting the real axis at this point, and if you see the values, the magnitude is 0.211 and the frequency is 6.64, which is the same as or quite similar to what we have calculated. And similarly, if you look at this value, that is where my Nyquist plot is cutting the imaginary axis. So it is cutting the imaginary axis at this point, right? So if you look at the magnitude, so real part is almost 0, it is 0.006, right? It is quite small or almost 0, and the imaginary part is minus 1.25, right? So this is the similar value or quite similar value to what we have calculated, and the frequency is 2 radians per second. Okay, right, and it is ending at 0, right? Started from here, started from the starting point is here, it goes all the way and it ends at 0. The upper part will be the same as the bottom half. It will be a mirror image, right? And obviously in the upper half we have all the negative frequencies which we do not consider, which is not very useful for us, so we leave it. Now to find the gain margin, we have to first of all calculate minus 1 divided by A. Now if you look back at the Nyquist diagram, so Nyquist diagram is cutting the real axis first time at this point, right? And the magnitude is 0.211, okay, this value. So it is minus 1 divided by A. So minus 1 divided by A is 0.2, sorry, minus 0.211, this value. Okay, so from there we calculate the value of A. So it will be 1 divided by 0.211, which is equal to 4.74 approximately. And when we convert it into decibels using this equation, we end up getting 13.5 dB. Now for the phase margin, it is a bit difficult to find the points, where the curve crosses the unit circle. So for MATLAB figure, by trial and error, this is close to, real value is close to minus 0.290, and the imaginary value, it comes out to be minus 0.95 or 96, right? So to calculate this phase angle, we take tan inverse of imaginary part divided by the real part. So imaginary part is 0.9596 divided by 0.29. We end up getting 73.16 degree. So this is the gain margin and the phase margin. Okay. Now last chart, which is the easiest one, Uh, it is called as Nichols chart, right? Um, so it is basically we plot the phase along the x-axis versus the magnitude along the y-axis. Okay, so open loop phase in degree is plotted along the x-axis, and the open loop gain in decibels, it is plotted along the y-axis. So you get a curve something like this. Okay, now it's quite simple to find the gain and the phase margin in this. So this is your 0 dB. I will write it down. This is 0 dB and this is minus 180 degree, and the corresponding value on the top is here, minus 180 degree. Okay, so from the Nichols graph, we first find the point where the Nichols chart or this figure, it crosses the 0 dB line. So 0 dB line is this dotted line. Okay, so it is crossing the Nichols chart at this point, right? So from this point we measure the difference to 180 degree line. So 180 degree line is here, this one. I will also draw this. It is approximately here, 180 degree line. So we measure this difference from minus 180 to where the chart, Nichols chart, is crossing the 0 dB line. So that will give me the phase margin. Okay, and from 180 degree line we measure this difference, right, from 0 dB line to where this graph or this Nichols chart is cutting the 180 degree line. If you measure this distance, it will give you the gain margin, right? So this is 0 dB line and this is 180 degree line, right? So that will give you the gain margin. Okay. Now this is a sample MATLAB code which you can try it out yourself. Basically, I have put in all the functions for plotting Nyquist, Bode, and the Nichols graph. So if you need it in your program, you can use these functions. And finally, these are the tutorial questions, the MCQ practice questions, and the MATLAB exercises, which you could try out yourself. So with this, I will stop the recording